This is Everything Horror, where we like to talk about everything horror. And in today's video, we are going to talk about my favorite movies from the past decade. That's right, you guys. We are entering a new decade. I cannot believe it. This last decade went by in a flash. I was in high school at the start of the 2010s, and now I'm old and alone. For this video, we are going to be talking about my top 50. That's right, my top 50 horror movies for this past decade. That is a lot of movies. So, in order to get through all this at a timely manner, we're going to have to just like speed walk through a lot of them. But before we get into that, I want to talk about some honorable mentions. And these I'm just going to name off right off the bat. Movies like Black Swan, Quiet Place, Dark Song, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, Hush, Gerald's Game, Good Night Mommy, The Visit, Lights Out, Prometheus, Attack the Block, Unfriended. I know a lot of people are going to be mad at this one, but this movie didn't make my top 50. The Babadook. Yeah, I know. It's just with that movie, there were some parts of the film that just took me out of it. Some of the sound effects and stuff, just seeing like stock sound effects, and it just, yeah, I know it's a low budgeted film, but it just took me out of the film. So for number 50, I have Creep. Creep is a little film. It's a found footage movie. It was back when Netflix was getting pretty big and they were having a lot of indie films. And this was one of the first films that I checked out on Netflix, and I really enjoyed it. The atmosphere was really good. And Mark Duplass, he's so great in the film. Next, we have Oculus. Mike Flanagan, one of his first films. Great ghost story, creepy. I like the use of objects in the film with the mirror, and really solid ending. Next, we have The Innkeepers. Ty West, he was a director that I was really looking forward to looking into the next decade. Although he hasn't really made much films in this decade, the ones that he has made have been overall really good, and The Innkeepers was a really great film. There is a good use of humor, and when it gets creepy, it gets creepy. Next is Starry Eyes. Starry Eyes is a really depressing film. It's it's really creepy. The message of the film, showing how dirty Hollywood is, how becoming trying to become a star in Hollywood, what it really entails. It just shows a disturbing message for the film. Next, we have Revenge, another movie that has a really strong message. The I like the use of violence in the film. The reason why it's not higher on the list is because there's a part in the movie where it just I well, you have to expand your thought for realism. Even though most of the film just seems so much more realistic, but when it comes to that certain scene, it just took me out of the film. But still, a really strong film. Definitely check it out. 45, we have Autopsy of Jane Doe. This was another strong film. Like the slow burn of it all, it really keeps your attention. It's really creepy when they're investigating this body, and I like the twists and turns it takes throughout the film. Next, we have Split, a return to form for M. Night Shyamalan. Before this, he had The Visit, which was on my honorable mentions, but this was a much stronger film, and it went on to become a little bit of a franchise. The movie that came out this year, Glass, although it was disappointing for me, Split was really strong. It had Anya Taylor-Joy is really great in it, and James McAvoy, he gives a performance of a lifetime. Next, we have Scream 4, Wes Craven's last film before he passed away. I think it was a great entry into the series. It was better than the third one, and that's all you can ask for. But it was actually still a really strong film, and I like what they incorporated with, the fad of what was going on at the time with found footage. And yeah, Wes Craven, rest in peace. Number 42, Overlord. This was a movie that came out last year that I really, really enjoyed. It was a gripping film. It was a great war film for the first half, and then it became all-out horror movie, sci-fi, craziness in the last half, and really, really enjoyed it. Number 41, we had The Guest. The Guest, it was the epitome of what was going on at the time. A lot of synthesized music throughout the film, the 80s style, and the story throughout was very intense. Some twists and turns here and there, and overall, really good movie. Number 40 is You're Next. This movie I actually wasn't really excited for when I heard about it, but after watching it, holy crap, I really like this movie. Kills are really good, and what they do with one of the characters in the film, making them a total badass. Really enjoyed that. It turned the home invasion films upside down. 39, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. This movie is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I don't even need to say any more. 38, Maniac. This was a really solid remake. One of the best remakes of the past decade. And the choice that they made to make it all from the perspective of the killer really adds that element of dread and the disturbing nature of you feeling like you're committing these murders. So really, really like that film. If you haven't seen it, just like any of these films, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Number 37, Don't Breathe. Just like it tells you in the for the title of the movie, this movie is very claustrophobic. There's elements of the film where you don't know what the heck is going to happen. And holy crap, Stephen Lang is just so menacing. Who would have known a blind man would have put so much fear into you? So, props to that film. Number 36, Insidious. This was one of the first haunted supernatural films that really put that strong jump scare and intense nature of the demons and all that in the forefront. When you look back at it, James Wan has been very influential, especially since the early 2000s. After Saw, there was a bunch of those, gore porn movies, and then for this decade, there's been a bunch of those, haunting, ghost jump scare movies, and he's making a new film for 2020, and let's see how this film influences the next decade, because from what I've seen so far, it looks like it definitely will. Such a strong use of dread. There's a child in danger, and the scares, top notch. Number 35. There's probably going to be a lot of people that you guys are probably going to think that I'm crazy, but for number 35, I'm going to have Paranormal Activity: The Marked Ones. I really like this movie. You guys think I'm crazy. This movie is actually really good. I have Spanish culture in my blood, and a lot of the parts in this film that have to do with the Spanish culture I really relate to, and I think the acting is really good in this movie. There's some awesome solid scares, and I have a little bit of a soft spot for found footage films. Um, a lot of people don't like this movie, but I don't really see why. Anyways, number 35, Marked Ones. Number 34, we have The Void. This movie was a lot of style over substance, but I really liked it. I wish there was a little bit more of a story to it, but the use of gore, the effects, a lot of this film I really, really enjoy. And for some reason, I keep going back to it. So that's why that's number 34. For 33, I have Terrifier. This movie really came out last year, and it really got back to that grindhouse feel. Art the Clown is terrifying. The gore. And again, with this film, I wish there was a little bit more story, but I don't know. I like this kind of schlock. Number 32, We Are Still Here. I don't know if a lot of people have seen this movie, but this was one of those films where it pretty much takes place in just one setting, but the story and the lore and and then how it gets so bonkers at the end. This movie just really speaks to me, and I really, really enjoy it. Another movie that for some reason, I just always go back to. Number 31, Mr. James Wan appears again here. This movie was the next step up from Insidious. It is so solid with the scares. The way James Wan filmed the movie has that awesome 70s look to it, a lot of that zoom in. And I just like the way it's filmed. I like the way they implement the scares, the new scares that they came up with. Everything seems earned. And the storytelling is also really great. Number 30, It Follows. There's probably people that are like, why isn't that in your top 10? It Follows. It's a really strong film. There's just other movies that spoke to me a lot more than this movie did, but it's still a really strong movie. I really like it. There's just some things that kind of don't make sense in my head with the film, with the creature in particular, but that's for some other time to talk over. But yeah, I like the metaphor for the way you pass on the creature like a STD. I like all that about the film. Number 29, Paranormal Activity 3. Other than the first one, this is my favorite Paranormal Activity. It has solid scares. The implementation of that, the turning camera, uh, it just adds to the level of fear whenever watching that movie. Again, found footage films are my crutch, but it's a really solid film. And next is 10 Cloverfield Lane. This is a movie that I just absolutely love. I love the first Cloverfield, but this one is even better. John Goodman gives a great performance. Elizabeth Winstead, she's always great. And just the claustrophobic feel that you have throughout the movie. And then the only thing is the ending is kind of, but after sitting throughout the movie with not too much happening, it is a nice welcome change for the end of the movie to be pretty hectic. Next, we have The Conjuring 2. It did everything that The Conjuring did, but even better. The Nun is terrifying. Acting is great. Everything about The Conjuring 2, I just absolutely love. Next is Devil. This movie, I just have such a love for this film. I think all the actors in the movie are great. It's another movie where it takes place in one setting. I think I might be alone on this because I don't really hear anybody talk about this film, but I really like it. It takes place on an elevator. If you haven't seen this movie, definitely check it out. Next, we have Mandy, such a psychedelic, crazy film. Nicolas Cage is at his Nicolas Cage best. Number 24, Halloween. This movie I had been anticipating for so long. When I first heard when they were, in talks to make the film, I actually was really excited, and I thought all the choices they made for director and bringing back some of the old cast, I thought it was all solid, and it ended up being a lot better than what I had anticipated. Yeah, there's some parts that are kind of but overall, it really satisfied me as a fan of the Halloween franchise. 23, Green Room. This movie is vicious. The acting is solid. Anton Yelchin, rest in peace, was so solid in this movie. If you don't know about it, it's about this punk band that plays a show at this. It's like one of these neo-Nazi bars, and they witness something horrifying, and uh, they and the people that own the bar, they don't want to let them leave. Number 22, Sinister. This movie is so scary, so creepy. I just absolutely love it. 21, Evil Dead. This movie, another movie that I had been anticipating coming out. When I first heard that they were remaking it, I was actually really excited. I do love the original film, but this was a movie that I feel like, okay, it's justified in being remade because it was a very low budgeted film. Some of the effects don't look that great, but they do in this movie. Oh my gosh, the use of blood and gore is just a gore fiend's wet dream. It's just super intense from beginning to end. And Jane Levy, I wish I could see her in more films. She's absolutely amazing in this movie. She is creepy. She is innocent whenever she plays innocent. She is. She has such amazing range. I wish I could see her in more films. But yeah, Evil Dead. I love it. Number 20, Train to Busan. If you haven't seen this movie, check it out. It is adrenaline filled, zombie galore. Great, great, great movie. Even though it's in a different language, read the subtitles. It's worth it. Number 19. This was a movie that I kind of forgot came out last decade, but it came out in the 2010s. But Shutter Island, Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese make a horror film. Come on. Number 18. The Killing of a Sacred Deer. This movie is just so intense. It is a slow burn, but oh my gosh, it's such a gnarly film. It's so twisted. Um, I don't know who. I don't know how you could come up with such a premise, but if you don't know, this is about a doctor. He takes this kid under his wing because the kid's father died on the operating table, and it was at the hands of our main character, and so he kind of feels a little bit of guilt for that, but they come to find out that this kid is wanting to take revenge on him, and he does it in such a sadistic way. Number 17, It. This is another movie that I was anticipating, and it checked all the boxes. The characters, the children, they're all great. They're hilarious, and it's scary when it wants to be scary. And Sarsgaard, man, he is so amazing as Pennywise. I absolutely love that movie. Number 16, Bone Tomahawk. Even though some people think this isn't really a horror film, the last half it gets pretty horrifying, okay? It really keeps you engaged, you like the characters, and when things come to a head, you really care about the characters. Number 15, VHS 2. All thanks to Safe Haven. That is the most amazing segment that I have ever seen in any of these anthology type films. It is so masterfully done. Just on that alone, it deserves to be number 15. But no, there's other segments like Right on the Park, the Slumber Party one. VHS 2, if you haven't seen any of the VHS films, definitely go ahead and watch VHS 2 because it is the best, and come on, it's a top 15 film in my list. Number 14, The Wailing. This movie is amazing. I know probably not many people have seen it. Definitely check it out. Number 13, The Invitation. This movie is on Netflix right now. Go watch it. Another slow burn movie, but it really pays off at the end. Number 12, Us. There's a lot of people that don't really like this movie. There's a lot of people that really like this movie. I fall into the camp where I really like this movie. I love it. Number 11, Kill List. It starts out not feeling like a horror film, but oh baby, it turns into a horror film. Number 10, Cabin in the Woods. This movie is a horror lover's wet dream. It is amazing, hilarious, great kills, awesome gore. That's all I could ask for. I love it. Number 9, Get Out. Jordan Peele, man. This guy is God's gift to filmmaking. He was so under the radar, just came out of nowhere and showed that he had a talent for directing, and he is knocking it out of the park. Get Out, I love it. I love the message. I love the story. Everything about this movie. I can just rewatch it over and over again. Number 8, The Witch. There's some people that are crying because I don't have it even higher, but I really love this movie. I love everything about it, but there was just 7 other films that I loved even more than this movie. Number 7, One Cut of the Dead. I saw this movie last minute, and absolutely loved it. And then we have Annihilation. Annihilation is. I'm surprised this wasn't a movie that a lot of feminists gravitated towards, because the majority of this movie is led by females. It's a smart, uh, scary, intense movie. That screaming bear is the stuff of nightmares. The cinematography is beautiful. There's some dark and twisted, but also beautiful imagery throughout the movie. Uh, this this movie is amazing, and everyone should see it. Now we're on to the top fives. These are the movies that just spoke to me this decade. Number five, Midsommar. This was my number one film for this year, and I absolutely love this movie. I purchased it and I've rewatched it, and I love it even more. Number four, Under the Skin. Scarlett Johansson, so menacing. She has she gives such a great performance. The use of real people in this film just adds to the atmosphere of the film. Those scenes where you're in the her dark place, so fucking weird and creepy. Number three, this was a movie that I just couldn't stop thinking about after watching it. Black Coat's Daughter. This movie is so well done. The atmosphere, the the isolation that you feel because these girls are stuck in this school, and the story that goes alongside with it, and the twists and turns. I have never seen a movie with such amazing twists throughout it. Um, Really turned me for a loop. Once I thought I figured it out, and then it threw in another loop, and I was like, wait, what the hell? Holy shit. This movie, I love it so much. Another slow burn, but it's so amazing. And then that ending, up for your own interpretation. Number two, The Lighthouse. I finally watched it, and oh my god, this movie would have been my number one for this year if I would have watched it ahead of time for my top 10 films. This movie is amazing filmmaking. Robert Pattinson, he is so amazing in this film. William Dafoe, oh my gosh. Both of these men, they carry the film. And number one, and this was another film that just stayed with me after watching it, and I just couldn't shake it for like a whole entire week. It was Hereditary. Hereditary is my number one film for this decade. It was the movie that made the most impact on me. It really put me in. It really like it was weird. It just changed my perspective of life. It made me think like, holy crap, anyone can be gone like in a matter of seconds, and how would I react to that? And this movie did that for me. I love how it gets all bonkers at the end. It turns into a straight up haunting movie at the end, and another slow burn, but it's like the fastest two hours in the theater that I had. It was it's just amazing. It's world class filmmaking. Ari Aster, he is again just like what I said with Jordan Peele. This guy just came out of nowhere, and he had he had the gift for filmmaking. He for filmmaking and storytelling. He is just amazing. In this film, Toni Collette gives the performance of a lifetime. I absolutely love this film, and I also am fucking terrified of it. But yeah, guys, that was my top 50 films for the 2010s. That was my top 50 films for the 2010s. We made it through. Now on to a new decade. Let's see what it brings. Hopefully this decade is even better than last. 2010s was an amazing decade. I loved it. I loved all the films that came out, and what happened in my life. I really liked what happened in my life, and I can't wait to step into this new year, this new decade, and see what it brings. Anyways, hope you guys liked this video. Let me know, what are your guys' favorite films for the 2010s? You don't have to make a list, just go ahead, tell me, let me know in the comments down below. Anyways, my name is Hector. This is Everything Horror. Take care, peeps.